I've said it before and I'll say it again. I love computers. I'm a little nerd boy, and I've always been fascinated by the idea of hacking. Even before I really knew what that was, it just seemed cool. It was a mysterious world that only a select few understood. But it doesn't need to be mysterious, it's actually a pretty chill place, and I'd like to show you around. What is hacking? Most people probably think it's illegal, and to be fair, sometimes it is, but the definition that I like is getting technology to do something that it wasn't originally supposed to do. Sure, that could be something like hacking a bank's computer to give you $1 million. It certainly wasn't supposed to do that. But it could also be jailbreaking your phone, and there's nothing illegal about that, no matter what Apple wants you to believe. So when I was young and fascinated by the idea of computer hacking, I would search the internet for how to hack and read tons of articles and blog posts about how computer systems work and how to break into them. But one time I made the mistake of trying to share that passion with my sister. All she saw was a big old juicy opportunity to get me in trouble. She was like, "Mom, Tim Tom's hacking into the government. He's gonna go to prison." And I was like, "Nuh-uh, hacking isn't necessarily illegal. It's just about getting computers to do stuff that the original designers never intended." And Mom Tom was like, "I'm not doing this right now." Despite my sister's best efforts, I learned so many cool hacking tricks that I was basically Keanu Reeves. The only problem was, a ton of the information I found was outdated and super worthless. For example, back in the 90s, when you put a quarter into a payphone, it would play certain tones down the line to tell the phone system that you paid. But if you recorded those tones on something like a tape recorder and played them into the handset, the phone system would think that you paid and let you make calls for free. Neat. But back when I tried it, payphones had switched to digital systems that weren't vulnerable to that hack, and modern payphones don't exist. Thinking back on it, a lot of the information I found was about how the phone system works, or used to work, which kind of makes sense. Phones were the network that connected everybody's homes and businesses before the internet was a thing, and phone hacking, or phreaking as the cool kids called it, used to be a big part of being a hacker. My favorite thing that I learned from my phreaking days almost did get me in trouble with the police. Basically, I learned how those old rotary phones worked, and I figured out that I could dial a phone number by just taking the phone off the hook a bunch of times in the right pattern, kind of like Morse code. I thought the idea of dialing a phone number without pressing any buttons was neat, but I also didn't expect it to work. So I used that trick to dial the first phone number I could think of. 911. Once the phone started ringing, my heart sank and I hung up, but it was too late. The police had already traced the call. The cops showed up to my house like 30 minutes later, and I was just like, "Whoa, gee willikers, well, I sure didn't dial 911. Yep, I didn't press any buttons at all." And I got away with it, like a totally elite hacker. Now, I don't think movies are responsible for my fascination with computers or hacking, but they definitely fueled that flame. My favorite movie of all time is Hackers, a movie that came out when I was a baby. There's a scene in the movie where one of the characters uses that phone hook trick to call someone, and a different scene where he uses the tape recorder trick to use a payphone for free. Most of the hacking in the movie is unrealistic and just looks cool. But there's tons of parts where the characters use actual hacks, and the movie doesn't call attention to it, they just do it like it's no big deal. When I first saw that, I was ecstatic, like, that would actually work! Or at least it would have, back in the day. Nowadays, hacking doesn't revolve around the phone system nearly as much, and as I've gotten older, I'm usually less interested in breaking stuff. But I still think that mentality is a great way to look at the world. Instead of accepting things as they are, or as they were intended to be, approaching everything with a little bit of mischief just makes life more interesting.